And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of these crazy people that just eat meat and can't stop talking about it. It's Justin, all out life carnivore, and Tom, just plain Tom. Now you can call me Tom, Tom Clark, Tommy, Thomas A. Clark, if you're looking for me on social media. And Justin and I are both guys who just eat meat. We call ourselves carnivores. It's kind of the general preference of the crowd. A lot of people just describe it as meat-based eating. Some people call it a diet. It is a diet, but diets come to mean different things, right?
Some people call it eating like a human.
It sounds simple, right?
Sounds a bit simple. Well, what's simple is hitting that like button, making sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button.
Mm-hmm.
Leave us a comment, message, hate mail, whatever. Your spam, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, send this video on to your friends as well as your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And despite your religious denomination, we hope you have a celebratory last week, this week, next week, depending on the denomination. Happy Kwanzaa. We don't discriminate here.
What about
Uh,
Festivus?
Festivus, of course, Festivus. Have a delicious Krampus, right?
Krampus. The Krampus was a character.
Is that a character that was also like the holiday? No. The Krampus comes on Christmas.
Yeah, I think Krampus is like the sort of captured demon sort of sidekick. That was my
to Saint Nick.
Yeah, perhaps the Allfather.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can poke fun at the holiday and talk about all the pagan origins of Christmas if you like. But what's our real topic du jour?
Yeah, today's topic is the validity of coaching. Do people need coaching advice to eat meat and drink water? Have a little bit of salt. It's kind of the argument. And this comes up from time to time. You know, why are people getting paid? Why are people making a career? Why are people doing videos? Yada, yada, yada. And yeah, I mean, I'll admit it. I did this without a coach per se. I mean, I had a mentor, I suppose, Angela, but she's not even really carnivore. She was kind of low carb and just kind of followed in a group.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, but I mean, I just read a bunch of stuff, listened to a bunch of podcasts, and then just rolled with it from there. I didn't hire anybody of how to do this. So, yeah, I didn't really get any coaching. Tom, I know you didn't really get any formal coaching. And hi, Christina. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, Christina, Carnivore Christina's in the chat. It's good to see you. Been a little while. She was kind of filling us in on her absence in the Telegram chat group. So if you guys like Telegram, join the Meet Mosaic Telegram chat group. If you're a Facebooker, you can find a Meet Mosaic Facebook group. If you're on the spectrum or some of your family's in the spectrum, join Autistic Carnivores. Those are the two very best carnivore groups on Facebook by far. There's many others, but there's only two like that.
Is it that you had a new group, or was I presented with a group that you had started a while ago and I just barely joined it? I can't even remember the name of it.
The Carnivore Culture?
Yes. Is that
Yeah,
new?
I think that's Jason Klepko's
group. Who's that?
I
don't think I know who that is.
Carnivore dude's been on Facebook a lot. I think he started it. I couldn't swear to it.
Oh, I thought it was your group. I was like, Tom, another group.
I have a lot of groups though. There is Keto and Carnivory, the Carnivore Cult. Geez, I can't even remember them all. So
come on, man, got to go back to the roots. The ketogenic fasting project.
Yeah, I don't think there's an actual group called that, but that was originally how my channel started because I was doing keto back in 2017, and then I gravitated into carnivore before I was going that direction, didn't really know it was a thing yet. So I gradually changed the name of the videos and Facebook groups and stuff like that. So yeah. So here we are, 2022, nearing the end of 2022.
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it? It's going to be 2023 pretty soon. And so how long have you been eating just meat there, Justin?
Just shy of 4 years now. Just shy.
Just shy of 4 years.
It'll be 4 years in April. So I've got a business quarter. Then I'll be there. Yeah.
All right. The end of next quarter, you'll be
at the end of next quarter. That's right.
Gotcha.
4 years carnivore.
Make sure you tell your accountant about that. So, anyways, yeah, when Justin and I started, there really weren't many carnivore coaches out there. There was certainly carnivores have been carnivore for a long time, long before us, but they were a pretty quiet group because they got a lot of static from other people for just eating meat, you know, and then started going mainstream. I'm going to guess that when it started popping off on social media, I'm going to say probably 2018 sometime, 2019, we started seeing
well,
Dr.
when did
Baker.
Sean go on Joe Rogan? Wasn't that
I don't remember
17?
exactly. Maybe it could have been 2017. Sure.
It's fairly old, I think, now.
Yeah, I don't think it's on YouTube anymore. I think you got to find it on some of the Joe Rogan's still on YouTube, and a lot of it is just on Spotify now, so you got to look it up. But somewhere around there, Sean Baker, Dr. Sean Baker, and Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Well, more his daughter, Michaela Peterson.
Yeah, and I think that was after, right?
Yeah. Well,
was she on Rogan? I don't even remember. She
was on Rogan after Sean, certainly by like a year or two, for sure. Yeah. I'm going to say 2019 she was on, if not early 2020, something like that.
Yeah. So anyways, it hit a broader audience, right?
Yeah, definitely. And other podcasts.
In that time, Sean Baker had meatheals.com. I can't remember if Meat Heals was the first one but then it went from there to MeatRx, and then MeatRx became Revero. And that group has trained coaches for carnivore.
I'm one of them. Woohoo, I've got a certificate.
Yeah, I do too, oddly enough. So, and then let's see if there's, I was looking here. I thought I saw a message come through from a Telegram group, but I guess not. So anyways,
there's been like the Weston A. Price Foundation for a couple decades, something like that.
Yeah, and the primal health people, they're very much into eating meat, but they're not strict carnivore in any sense. They're not hyper carnivore, which technically means, I've had this question a few times. Hyper carnivore is typically defined as getting at least 80% of your food from meat. And meat to me includes fish, birds, fowl, seagulls where it's legal,
eggs,
cheese, dairy,
snake,
definitely snakes.
There's wallaby
if you can catch them.
Penguin, my personal favorite.
Yeah. So, anyways, people do raise the question sometimes because a lot of people just do carnivore all by themselves, like we did, and then they do very well, and then they're like, "What the hell why do we need carnivore coaches? Doesn't make any sense. All you do is eat meat, eat meat and cut the other fruits and vegetables and grains and seed oils. You cut them out. So how hard can that be? Why are people calling themselves coaches? Why are people paying them? And on and on and on. And I suppose it's a fair question, because if you just jump on in and you have success all by your lonesome, you're gonna wonder why other people don't. So you
Well,
want to shed
Tom, why
some
do you
light?
need a driving instructor?
Why do you need a driving instructor? I mean, you turn a wheel, push the pedals, maybe you're shifting some gears, hitting some blinkers. Why would you need a driving instructor? Why?
Why? My driving instructor hit me with a ruler
Yeah, while you're driving.
while I was driving. He literally had a ruler in the car. He was, I'm going to assume, a Chinese man, but he was dark in complexion,
Hmm.
and yeah, he would hit my hands with the ruler when I would mess something up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was like, is this legal?
Now, as a carnivore coach, do you ever strike your clients with a ruler?
Absolutely. No. I strike them with insight. Um, yeah. So I think the coaching thing, to me, the biggest reason to get a coach is right behind me. And it's because of things like this.
I was going to say, is that a box of croissants on top of the aquarium? Do you feed those to your snakes? Because I
Yeah,
don't
the
remember
snake.
snakes eating croissants.
Yeah, snakes eat croissants. It's a big secret. No, those are my fiance's because, in her words, I need my bread. I
Mm,
can't give up bread, as she says. Although she does eat quite a bit of meat with me, so that's really good.
well,
Um,
that's nice.
and I think she went about a week without the bread, which was really good. Although I did see her sneak a couple pieces of candy. That's okay.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I think people don't realize how addictive things like croissants are. How we all know they're good, but a lot of people struggle with saying no. Something like a
mhm.
croissant or any kind of bread or French fries, etc. It goes on mashed potatoes. So a lot of people have a hard time eliminating. I think that is, a lot of people do well on the just eat meat part, but they have a really hard time with the stop eating the other stuff part. And I think that
Mhm.
part's more difficult because it's social, it's built into the fabric. I mean, what is America? America. Oh, thank you, Christina. America. What is it? What's the saying? It says American is apple pie, right? That's
Yeah, and
the
I'll just
saying.
roll back to Christina's previous comment. She said that she just jumped in, no coaching required. So a lot of people don't need to coach, right?
Yeah, and I think people like that, and I don't know if this is for you, Christina, but I think I've seen the people that can do that are people that have come from other ways of eating, whether it vegetarian, vegan, GAPS, paleo, et cetera, et cetera. Like me, I
Mhm.
came from paleo. So I had said no to bread, regular bread. I'd said no to croissant 6, 7 years before going carnivore. It had already been that, unlike regular off the shelf ice cream. And I'd already eliminated a lot of that stuff from my diet. And so for me, it was a journey that is longer on paper than it looks like on the screen, if that makes sense, of eliminating foods. And so, um, as an adult, I pretty much tried to eat quote unquote healthy. It was the bad kind of healthy. It was more plant based and all that stuff, and more vegan. Uh, but saying no to like Snickers was something I had eliminated again, a decade ago or something like that. Soda, regular soda, I mean, it said no to again 8 years ago before carnivore or something like that. And so once you've gotten rid of a lot of the processed foods and you just that habit of saying no to food, regular foods that other people eat, once you have
Mhm.
that habit down, it's easy to transition that same habit into other ways of eating or dietary choices. I
Yeah,
think.
I was going to make that point because a lot of people came from keto or paleo to carnivore, and they bring a lot of that with them, right? And a lot of
Mm,
it's not really carnivore, right?
a lot of
what they bring with them from the
what
other
they
diets.
bring from the other diets.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's both ways. You can bring in quote unquote bad things, but I was mainly focused on the habit of avoiding X, Y, or Z food or whatever. Now the keto people, they have an issue because they're afraid of protein. I don't know what to tell
Yeah, and that was the
them.
biggest problem I saw with keto, and I think a lot of people, it's not. Yeah, they're worried that they eat too much protein, then it's just going to undo everything, or their blood sugar is going to spike, and their insulin's going to spike, and it's not that people can't be athletic on a keto diet, but when you dig into it, you realize they're not following the strict macro regulations that are typically prescribed for keto. And then we got to get into what exactly is keto, right? I mean, it's supposed to be, moderate protein, high fat, and very restricted carbohydrate. But when you get into it, even on carnivore, it's like some people are high fat all the time. What is high fat? When you start having conversations with people, you realize they're all over the place. They're not thinking the same thing. They're just using the same terms like high fat or high protein. Somebody increases their protein by 10%, decreases their fat by 10%, and then all of a sudden it's high protein and low fat. And it's like, really? It's still higher fat than protein. So what are we talking about? And then some people are basically stuck with ratios, 1 to 3, whatever. And it's like, okay, you know, uh, when you talk to them further, you realize they're not actually measuring any of that. They're just kind of winging it or whatever. So now that's not everybody. Some people are very specific
Meticulous.
about things, but so the specific people aren't using the very generalized sort of terminology. So
Well, yeah, I mean, you talk to people and they're like, I had 30 calories of 1/10 of an eighth of a gram. And I'm like, wait, what? You got to convert, and then it's like ounces to grams to calories. Yeah. And
and
then,
a lot of people had success on just uh eating the cut of meat that seemed most desirable, right?
well, that, and hey, did you count the fat that was left in the pan? Are you measuring that? Did
There's
you
that.
pour that back onto the food?
Mm-hmm. See, Christina says, I just ate the traditional Southern diet, a lot of deep fried critters. I still ate a lot of meat, but I just had to cut out the breading and the oils. I never really ate any different my whole life. So there you go.
What about
Yeah,
them
for a
deep
lot of it,
fried Twinkies? That's very Southern.
I like to harken back to the seed oil versus carbohydrate war. It wasn't really a war, but I like to think of it as a challenging circumstance because when you start reading the books on low carb and keto and anti-carbohydrate and stuff like that, it seems like it's all about carbohydrates, but people have made a good case. I think like Tucker Goodrich was one of them, that the seed oils may have done more damage than all the carbohydrates did, and it's a tough call. He made a good case for it, and he could very well be right. So it's not just about cutting out bread, right? Which is the first thing. I mean, I just had a conversation the other day, and the person was like, "So you just eat meat, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then 5 minutes into, oh, I could never give up bread. How many times have we heard that? I could never give up bread,
That's my fiance. That's her. I can't.
right?
I can't give up bread. Although I tried to offer her a cookie, and she said she didn't like cookies, and I was like, wait, bread good, cookie bad. It's like at least that's a start.
It's one less
Which
thing to worry about, right?
right, yeah. She's like, oh, I don't like cookies, and I was like, what? How do you not like cookies?
I've never heard a girl say that before.
Right? And I was telling her about how at the Rammstein concert, Marissa got the bucket of cookies.
Oh, yeah. Marissa bought a bucket of cookies and was hell bent on eating them all. I think it took her at least 24 hours, but she was going to eat that damn bucket.
We love you. It's okay. We don't
Yeah,
judge.
she's talking about giving keto another whirl. She's not quite ready for carnivore. Not really a big fan of steak, but she wants to do give it. And it's okay. I always tell people, when you're ready, you know, when you're ready, when you're in the right frame of mind. I mean, it doesn't do much good to try and do something when you're in the complete wrong frame of mind for it.
Right. I will give my fiance credit though. We were eating and she goes, "Hey, when you eat a bunch of meat, you don't want to eat anything else." I was like, "That's the secret. That's exactly it."
Yeah, and that's what I told the person I was talking to the other day. I went out to lunch with the sales rep, and you know, she picked out a place that had really fabulous meat. So she's very thoughtful about it, and she's a little bit curious. And so she asked. She when she was the one that said, "Oh, I could never give up bread," like 500 other people I've talked to, but I told her it does get easier, when you fill up on meat, and I told her I'm like, you could just give it a try, just eat meat for one meal and see how it goes. Or, if you eat enough meat, then you find you start losing interest in stuff like bread or dessert or whatever, and it gets easier. It's not that it takes no effort or no discipline or no planning, but it's easier than it sounds when you just say, "Hey, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat 2 ribeyes and see how far I get." And then you're like, "Yeah, I don't feel like eating anything else. I feel fantastic."
Well, yeah, it's just about building a habit, just like with driving a car, just like with anything else. Once you have the habit, it's pretty much like done done deal.
And
And me and Tom are kind of to the point where we can go, and this may not happen for everyone, but I'm surprised it's happened with me, and I'm sure Tom to some degree is surprised that you can have a quote unquote transgression and walk around the next day fine, more or less, maybe a day or two of some discomfort, typically in the gut, and then you just abstain or whatever, and then you're fine. Even if it's
yeah,
Korean barbecue that's really spicy. There's a lot of seasonings.
yeah, yeah, it was minor setback. But yeah, I just wanted to circle back to what you said about forming the habit. Justin and I and a number of other people have suggested that really what you want to do is just one thing at a time, right? So get
Yeah.
that habit of eating meat all the time down. Do that for at least a month. And then move on to other things like starting a workout if you're not used to exercising, right?
Mhm.
And then, I mean, if you really want to try, fasting or something, a lot of people in the carnivore community are big on fasting. And there's all kinds of different fasting, different time limits, different techniques. And, like Ray and Bella, they really push the priming where they feast quite a bit. They eat a lot of food, a lot of meat up front, and then they fast, which is a technique. And I'm not against fasting, but you got to have a reason to do it. To me, it's like a tool that you use sometimes, and to some people, it's a way of life. So, kind of just depends, right? I mean, what utility do you see in fasting, Justin?
I mean, I think it's great after a transgression. I think it's great when you're not feeling great. We typically don't want to eat at that time anyway. I think it's great if you have a stay at home job where you sit in a chair for 8 hours uh, and you're not working out because
Mm,
it's freezing outside. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it has its place. I think there's certainly a relationship between higher ketones and some severe illnesses,
for sure.
which might be to get you there with fasting. Um, I think it's like a detox, not what I call a detox protocol, but if you're suboptimal because you need to eliminate or something needs to repair, then I think fasting. If you're suboptimal because you need more energy or you need to build something, then you got to chow down. That's kind of the way I see it. Just very simplified, but that's kind of the way. I mean, I've been doing a few different days of only one meal a day. Um, a little while just because of eating late. Like today, made hot pot and Korean barbecue at the house, and so I'm done. I ate at like 2 o'clock. Was done eating like 2:30, and that's pretty much it for the day for me until tomorrow morning. So it's not even going to be like a 24-hour fast. It's going to be like 18 hours or maybe 20 hours, something like that, shy of that. So, which if you talk to Mr. Bart K, fasting starts at 3 days. That's just not eating. That's just not eating for a while.
Yeah,
You know?
just like high fat, low protein, high protein, low fat. People have different definitions of what fasting is, and then they create all these different kinds of fast. I always thought fasting was just when you don't eat and maybe drink water. Most people drink water. So, um, but there's fat fasts and all kinds of fasts out there, right? And basically they're just saying they're only consuming one thing, or maybe they're just consuming water and fat or whatever. And of course, if you're looking for a state of ketosis, that's not a bad way to go. I mean, it's kind of the fasting mimicking sort of starvation simulation diet without actually starving. And it goes on and on and on. So yeah, so they're talking about fasting can accelerate autophagy, which autophagy is when the cells in your body start getting rid of the damaged organelles and stuff like that. They basically recycle stuff that's less than optimal in the cells, and some cells actually die. So it's kind of,
Apoptosis.
yeah, apoptosis, of course, is when the cells actually expire, pass away. They're frequently disassembled by
Which your body does
macrophages, I think.
all of this anyway, of course.
Yeah, so and that stuff does increase, human growth hormone increases and stuff like that. But these things also occur when you exercise. So perhaps there's some utility in all that. I mean, fasting can get you into ketosis, and if you're having seizures, it could be for a lot of people, that's one of the ways they control seizures without medication, right? That was kind of the origins of the ketogenic diet, and it's making a comeback because they're realizing it has a lot of utility, not just for seizures, but a lot of mental disorders. I don't know if we talked about this, but in the literature, it does discuss. I wish I could remember which books, but I read it in more than one book where they noticed, like, when they would imprison or incarcerate people who were psychotic or having seizures or delusion or whatever. A lot of times in the old days, there was nobody to feed you. They didn't feed you in jail. If you didn't have family members
Pocket bread.
bringing you pocket bread, then you didn't eat. So they noticed a lot of times when these people stopped eating, they became more sane, right? Their psychiatric symptoms, probably before they were known as psychiatric symptoms, started going away, so that eventually led to the ketogenic diet, where they realized, well, what's happening here is this person is just burning their body fat because they're not eating bread or whatever. And so the ketogenic diet was a diet that was invented essentially to feed people a high fat diet so their seizures would stop. And then it was noticed that other psychiatric issues also improved. So, and now it's making a comeback for that. There's studies out there. Dr. Christopher Palmer wrote a book about it. Many people have researched the role of mitochondria. Basically, everything you eat and drink affects mitochondria, and mitochondria are basically they produce all the energy in your body and all the cells and all the places and all over your body and your brain. And they also signal all kinds of things. They create neurotransmitters, peptides, hormones, a whole nine yards, and influence other parts of the body. So, and largely they control epigenetic adaptation. So it seems to always come down to mitochondria. And I know that's going way down the rabbit hole. We don't have to talk about it too much, but I think it's both my contention and Justin's contention that it's not just about eating fat, though, right? The short circle is that we evolved eating animals, large megafauna, right? And so eating fatty meat or meat and fat is kind of the quintessential sort of perfect food for humans, right?
Well, yeah, and so that's where I think the having a coach can be helpful in that most people that come to this way of eating aren't in the best of health. So they typically try to find a coach that's gone through something similar to them and how they resolved the illness or disease state using this diet in the way that they used it basically to resolve it. Because in theory, it should work for them as well. Of course, I don't think always 100%, but compliance, I think, is the
Since you froze,
compliance.
I'm going to say hi to Raymond Neff. Hey, Raymond.
Hey, Raymond. I think compliance is the most difficult issue with that. But, uh, like with me with migraines. So how does a person go about this journey? How do you go through this journey? What's the timeline like? What does that journey look like, et cetera, et cetera? A lot harder to get into those specifics on a video or in a podcast, especially because I don't know where you're starting from. I don't know where you're trying to go. I don't know what kind of migraine you have. I don't know
And
what
that's what you
triggers
do
you
as a
have.
coach, right? You get to know people, find out where they're at.
Right, where they're at, their specific financial situation, social situation, what they do for work. If they're obviously a person that works third shift, their life is going to be different than a person that has to be in at 5 a.m.
You say third shift like everybody knows what that is.
Third shift is the night shift, the graveyard, working graveyard.
I see.
The best shift is swing shift, 2 to 11. That's my favorite.
Mm. I'm going to read Christina's comment here. Back to fasting. I found that when I fast, I tend to lose muscle pretty fast. The last time I fasted, a couple of days, I lost a little over an inch on my glutes and thighs. And I concur 100%. So, like I've said it like a million times in these videos, but for the new people, I like to lift. I lift every day. I basically eat to lift. And I know, Stu, like it's true if you're just doing a little cardio in the morning, even some hard cardio, it seems to be a little easier when you're fasted. But any sort of lengthy fasting does not seem to be conducive to building or maintaining muscle. And that's one of the ironies of it because, human growth hormone goes up, HGH. I know I was in the podcast with Jonathan Griffiths from
Composition consultant.
Composition Consultant. And instead of saying HGH, I said GHG. And it's been haunting me ever since. But anyways, yeah, those hormone levels go up. But if you don't have enough protein to build muscle with or even maintain muscle with, it doesn't matter how high the human growth hormone is, right? So,
well, once you're built out, like what is it? You might be able to get 1.5%, 2% a year of growth once you're pretty built out. Isn't that the average? Something like that.
yeah, so it's kind of tough to measure, and it kind of depends on, are you talking about muscle volume or you're talking about strength? Because they used to say, from the time you start till you hit maximum strength, usually most people can't lift more than triple than when they started. But we're seeing people do more than that now. And I don't know, is that diet? Is that technique, training technique, or whatever? And I mean, sure, if you're using, hormone supplementation, anabolic steroids, and all the other PEs, yeah, of course you're going to break that 3x barrier. But people are doing it without. So I don't know where the limits are. And even when I was talking to Jonathan, he was saying that he seemed to think that he had hit the maximum amount of muscle that he could put on naturally. And he's only I think he said it was 26 or 27.
Mhm.
And I was kind of surprised by that, but I'm not used to thinking about limitations like that. I'm used to just like go for broke and just keep going and see how far I can get, right?
Well, the only reason why I brought it up is that if it's true, you're going to get about, at best 2% muscle growth per year. Something like extended fast, you might lose that 2% and then spend the rest of the
Sure.
year getting that back.
Yeah,
So
and I'm not. I'd have to look into that. I've heard certain limitations suggested, and of course, if we harken back to the days of Barry Bonds and what was it, Mac? What was his name? The baseball player
oh man, I have it
back
in my head.
back when steroids were really an issue in baseball, and those guys were they were seasoned athletes at that point, and they were all of a sudden they're 30 pounds more muscle. It's like, it was good for the game, I think, but um, I don't really care one way or the other. It's kind of their job to be athletes, and they get
Mike McGuire. No, was it
yes,
Mike
McGuire,
McGuire? Yeah,
Mark McGuire.
Mike McGuire, Mark, something like
I
that.
don't think it was Mike, but it might have been Mark. Yeah, whatever. So, anyways, yeah, those guys were definitely taking some performance enhancing drugs. I think they got caught, and allegedly they were taking PEs. So,
Like a
anyway,
certain Liver King.
like a certain Liver King,
Mm.
and so, anyways, yeah, I don't know, and I mean, of course, none of that stuff was established on people that eat meat and aren't eating a bunch of plants, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, who knows, right? How
Who knows?
much how much it could be. But protein does a lot more than build muscle. And it's pretty tough to do because you've got to do that year without injury, eat consistently. So, maybe that's also part of the 2% is a year being that consistent. That's the hard part, right? That's kind of the hard part with everything.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about not getting injured, right?
Right.
Right.
And sleep. Good sleep will
Yeah,
help you
and
grow.
sleep you got to work on. Yeah, you and I both have talked a lot about sleep, and me, you and Joe are constantly like back and forth about how well we're sleeping and how much sleep we're getting in, how much REM sleep, and did our sleeping heart rate drop below our daytime resting heart rate, and all that stuff because we know it makes a difference. I mean, that's where a lot of the recovery comes, right?
Right, exactly. And so, uh, if
Can you do it without
fasting,
ketamine? Just
if fasting, because I've heard some people be like, I sleep better when I'm fasted. That like I have to stop
mm,
eating in the afternoon so I can sleep at night. And for a person like that, maybe
yeah.
quote unquote fasting is the way to go because they're recovering more at night. I
And
don't
then they're
know.
talking about a really short fast, right? They're
Right,
cutting off eating at 2 or 3 or 4 in the afternoon and then going to bed and getting up and eating in the morning, right?
right, yeah.
So we're not talking about a day or 2 days or 3 days or whatever. So,
Right, exactly. Hence why the wordplay, with it.
yeah, I'm fasting. Well, oh yeah, what does that mean? Oh, I'm not going to eat for 8 hours. Oh, well, good. Because you probably don't want to eat while you're sleeping.
Oh, it's Shabbat. Okay, get it. And it's that they fast for Shabbat. Every major religion has fasting. That's another
Does it?
interesting thing about it, doesn't it? Pretty
A
much.
lot of them do. I don't know if all of them or most of them, but a lot of them do.
Right.
Never really thought about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so the flip side of, some people clearly sleep better fasted. Some of us have to eat in the evening or we can't sleep because we're hungry and our body's like, "Hey, get up and go get some food." I realized that was an issue. Just like not getting enough sun was an issue and all the other things I do, the chili pad, the earplugs, the blackout curtains, the red light bulbs, all that stuff I do. That, if I wasn't eating enough, I couldn't I had a hard time going to sleep and staying asleep. So being properly fed, which means eating in the evening frequently after I've worked out, is important. And of course, that's another thing you might want to coach for because it could work either way, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's those little things. Do you keep the coffee in? Does the coffee gotta go? Do you salt
When
your
does the
water?
coffee go?
When does the coffee go?
Yeah.
Dairy, right? Do you have butter? What are your fat sources?
Mm,
Cheese. Where are you with cheese? Um, where it's just all these little things. Chicken, how you do a chicken, other fowl. Fish, obviously some people are allergic to fish. There's some people that say they absolutely feel the best when they eat lamb. They got to go all the way to lamb to
mhm,
feel their best. Heard that too.
mhm,
um, some people histamine issues, so ground beef is a no-no because it's been sitting there for a while. Maybe you got to freeze your meat as soon as you take it home, break it up into uh, portions that are each meal, and just unfreeze it and cook it right away to cut down on histamines. There's all these little tips and tricks and things like that. How do you keep your food warm in the winter and going cold on you? Do you eat it raw or do you cook it? How much do you cook it? Cooking skills. A lot of people in
mm.
my generation don't know how to cook a steak. I had to kind of retrain myself how to cook a steak. I didn't cook steak. I really didn't up until I started carnivore. Honestly, really didn't eat a whole lot of steak.
Well, makes me worried for the world.
Or if I ate steak, it was with ketchup. What do you do about ketchup? What do you do about seasonings?
God, that interview with Sean Baker, I think he was in the UK, and the news lady, the interviewer's like, not even with ketchup. You don't eat your meat with ketchup. And I was like, who puts ketchup on steak?
I used
Who?
to.
God. I see Ben Parlos made a comment here. He said, I wouldn't personally work out and fast. Not a bona fide 3 day fast, anyways. Work out on an empty stomach, sure, then go eat. Yeah, and I could agree with that, especially if you're doing cardio. But like in that video, I was talking to Jonathan Griffith, the composition consultant. Him and I both like to lift, and there's no way you're going to go day to day on one meal or 2 meals or even 3 meals or even 4 meals. It's got to be like 4, 5, 6 meals a day. And, you know, conversely, you might work out fasted, but I don't lift as well when I'm fasted, you know, and I certainly don't make progress. Bad Parlous is no cardio for him either. So yeah, I don't do cardio. I used to, and then it became clear that for most people, you got to choose. You're either going to do the cardio or you're going to lift um, get better at one or the other. And that's, I've pointed out before, that's why CrossFit is so tough, because they're essentially trying to get stronger and faster. Right. So your body's kind of competing against itself. It's trying to adapt to two different activities. And so there's kind of a limit to how far you can go with two different specialized activities like that you're adapting to. You can do both, but if you really want to reach your full potential lifting, you don't want to be doing cardio. Now, bodybuilders do it to get lean for competition and stuff like that, but it's at the expense of muscle tissue, and they're doing it to get lean. They're doing it to get their body fat down. So,
Bodybuilders do a lot of odd stuff, though, the more you dig into it.
mhm. Yeah, they do. They torture themselves. So, and that's true. Ultra marathoners, they'll tell you, don't do this for your health. Even a lot of marathoners will tell you, don't do this for your health. Yeah, I'm probably healthier than average person, but this is hard on your body.
Cyclists, runners, but there's some people that love it. Tom loves to lift. Joe loves to run, and well, he loves to cycle, but now he's been really getting into wet. He ran like what, nearly a half marathon or a
Yeah, I
marathon,
ran a
Hamza?
half marathon
A
today,
half
right?
marathon. Yeah, today or
Was
yesterday.
that
Yeah,
yesterday?
I think that was
Yeah, I
yesterday.
think it was today. Depends on whether you're in Australia or the States too, right? Gets
Right.
confusing.
Yeah. So, and he just likes to do it, and we're good friends with him, and I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, still trying to figure it out, things like that. But
Hmm.
um, you know, uh so all that little stuff I think is why coaching can be important, because on paper this seems simple enough. And for probably a good 80% of people that really give it the college try, I think they can do it, at least for 90 days, 30 days, 90 days, right? But if you have a health condition, if you are type 2 diabetic and you've got to pretty much stick to this, yeah, you might need a little extra help to build it as a lifestyle versus just something to try to see how you feel. I think there is a difference there. Or, hey, I just want to increase my meat intake. There's people that have many different reasons for exploring this road, right? My
Yeah.
aunt, for instance, she calls me and goes, okay, I'm done. I'm going back to being more keto. I'm doing the low carb stuff. I'm eating more meat and cheese again. And I go,
Mhm.
why? She's like, well, because I checked my blood sugar and it was 165.
Mm.
She's like, which isn't horrible,
It's getting
but
up there.
it's getting up there and it makes you uncomfortable. So, and she has stable blood sugar, and she found keto about the same time I found carnivore,
Mm.
roughly ish within a year of each other. And she does that to control her type 2 diabetes,
Mhm.
because her
Mhm.
her dad lost his leg to diabetes, and an eye, I think.
Mhm.
um, and then my grandmother went blind from type 2 diabetes because she never controlled her blood sugar. She wanted to eat what she wanted to eat. So diabetes, even, it's so common, but it's a killer. It really takes people out. And it's not even like there's no such thing as a good death, right? But
Yeah, my grandmother died of Alzheimer's, and it's a horrifying process. It's years and years of just going insane. You know, no, it's a hard thing to watch. You know,
yeah, it's hard on your family, especially hard on yourself. And so, if there's a way to stop that, prevent that, which we can't say for sure, but we think the carnivore way of eating is your best chance to not get diabetes or Alzheimer's. I'm not going to say impossible, but I'd say the best shot.
well, there is a strong link, and a lot of experts are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, right?
Right.
And we know that the accumulation of the amyloid plaque seems to be related to insulin resistance. And one of the best ways to deal with insulin resistance is to stop eating carbohydrates. Right? So, so yeah, there's no guarantees. And I was talking to somebody the other day that I coach, and he was just surprised that carnivores even ever get a cold or whatever. And I was like, sure, you still get a cold, you still get COVID, but hopefully you're not as sick and certainly not as frequently, right? So, I mean, you notice that too, right? You rarely get sick now.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Knock on computer, laptop. I'm surprised that I haven't. It's been a good, well, since June or something like that, since my trip to Tennessee, and I got the modern pestilence. Since then, I've been good. Now, I was out in the rain for an entire day and did not get warm, so maybe that's part of it. But anyway, and then went straight into the hotel with uh, air conditioning hit to like 63 or whatever for the night too. So maybe just a combination, but nonetheless, yeah, I'm quite surprised. I know there's a few different things going around right now. I mean, people are still talking about the modern pestilence, but there's some other
It's a
respiratory infection or something
respiratory
going.
virus, yeah.
Yeah, respiratory virus going around, and of course the typical flu and colds and all of that. And yeah, I mean, I'm certainly more resilient than I was 3 years ago, 100%. But yeah, I mean, many of us in this space get ill. It's typically not as bad. And the cold and flu don't actually kill people. The modern pestilence doesn't actually kill people. It's the comorbidities and ultimately pneumonia, typically, that takes people out.
Yeah. Um, Back to the comments here. Ben Parlos says sprinting would be fine, not running, which really just turns into jogging. I don't do that either. LOL. So, anyways, yeah, it seems pretty clear that human physiology is better suited to things like sprinting rather than running long distances. So I'd agree with that. Um, and then he says, had a grandfather who had type 2, presumably type 2 diabetes, lost his leg. He was an alcoholic, gave it up, but turned to ice cream and sweets, then no more leg. Yeah. And that's a common thing that when, that's one of the things, I believe mitochondria actually have receptors for the byproducts of ethanol. And some of them, when you drink regularly, they adapt to that. And you take that away. And then again, you create another fuel crisis in the brain. So people tend to crave sugar and stuff like that. So, and of course, alcohol is dangerous, sugar is dangerous. So,
Well, and those AA meetings have plenty of donuts, cake, coffee, and cigarettes.
is that what they have? Yeah.
That is what they have.
Yeah.
Well, now it's vapes.
We'll have to start the carnivore AA meeting. So,
Mm-hmm.
basket of jerky or something,
Yeah.
some nice spring water.
It'd help a lot of people for real. Yeah.
See, Christina says, looking back to when I started carnivore, a coach would have been nice just to have someone on my side for encouragement. I got nothing but you're crazy and it's not healthy for anyone or everyone. Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing too. It's like everybody's like, yeah, this feels socially unacceptable and I'm getting scrutinized. If you're loud and obnoxious like me, it doesn't matter because, when people tell me I'm crazy and it's not healthy, then I then shower them with all kinds of facts and studies until they assume the fetal position and start whimpering in the corner, right? Because I'm relentless like that.
Well, I mean, you can't even watch a movie without feeling a little bit of attacked, What's that called in Europe? A royale with cheese, some great lines, right? From some great involved like food, typical processed food or whatever,
Mm.
What do they call a milkshake?
In Amsterdam, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know why Pulp Fiction just suddenly. I don't know. When I hear people being excluded and encouragement and all that, my mind went straight to Get the Gimp. I don't know why.
Well, that's the GIMP being included, so I don't know why you associate that with exclusion, but that's for a different kind of coach.
Yeah, different kind of coach, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's another thing, dealing with social issues. I mean, I know when I started, I was the only carnivore I knew other than like barely starting to talk to people online, Facebook, making Facebook friends who are carnivore or whatever. So, yeah, there's that. I mean, I kind of didn't really care that nobody else was doing it. And like at work, I worked in a really small office. Nobody really cared. They thought I was curious, but they're already familiar with keto and stuff like that. And so, like, it's another kind of diet, sort of similar to keto. So I didn't really have any issues at work. And my friends, I'd tell them, and they're like, well, "Okay, well, here you go again, another crazy quest, and good luck to you." Because so I didn't really feel it, but obviously people like Jordan Peterson, he finds it difficult, finds it boring, and he finds it unsocial or creates social difficulty. So it must be a real thing. Even if it's not a thing for me.
Still easier than being vegan, though. It's still way easier to eat out carnivore than vegan, certainly. Especially if you're trying to be vegan and gluten free. I mean, good luck to you. I mean, whew, my friends. I mean, I had some friends give me some guff. Certainly, how do you go without vegetables? You need this, you need that. How do you poop? All the typical stuff. But they're used to me doing crazy stuff. But when you stick to your guns, like I have one of my friends, I haven't talked to him in a bit, but who pretty much has gone carnivore more or less. He's a type 2 diabetic, um, who's gone. A lot of people start to kind of come around, Or, have a barbecue at your place, and just serve meat. And if you do that, people won't miss the other food. Like if you just have rounds of steaks and shrimp and all kinds of stuff just going, people oftentimes don't make it. Or mitzas. Mitzas are great. I've served mitzas to friends and they love it and they don't feel like they need anything else. Maybe we overdo it with the cheese on the pizza, but I think it's really good. So there's ways to bring people around, and if you talk to people, they're like, "Oh, I love meat. I just don't know if I could eat it all the time."
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of that, oh, I don't know how I would do that, or what, I can't believe it's mostly all the other dogma, right? Of that's a bad thing to do or that's unhealthy, very rarely, unless they're already vegan, and even then, very rarely do you run into someone who says they hate like all meat. So there's people that don't like pork, some people that even don't like beef, maybe some people don't like the taste of lamb, but like one of those, there's an animal with 4 legs, a ruminant walking around there that most people enjoy and would like to enjoy regularly.
Sure.
Sometimes it's cost holding them back. Um,
Yeah, well,
sometimes
when you got a coach who loves a bargain, then they can help you with that, right?
right. Sometimes, and I think unfortunately there's been some influencers in this area that have done damage by, say, claiming that you need to eat nose to tail. Have a
It has
delicious
to be
nose
grass
and
fed.
a delicious tail. Has to be grass fed. You know, the meat could have never touched a plastic container.
Hmm.
Not even at the supermarket. Don't go to the supermarket. You're not allowed to go to a supermarket, right? You have to go to your local farmer.
Which could be an issue because I can go a very short distance, see a lot of cows, but good luck trying to buy any of that meat. We can walk down the street and buy a whole goat, no problem. But good luck getting some lamb chops from a local farmer. Yeah, so it doesn't always work that way, and people got to understand that. You know, people like Dr. Jason Fung, he's had all kinds of patients that turn things around. They weren't real disciplined eaters, so he taught them to fast. If they were disciplined enough to at least go buy hamburger patties at a fast food place, they had good success. I'm sure there's somebody out there it didn't work for. Maybe there's some people that maybe do need the grass fed or whatever, but the vast majority of people do fine on it, right?
Yeah, and there's another wordplay, right? Like, yes, the monogastric creatures, your pig and your chicken, they're fed a bunch of crap and they don't process it out as well
Mm.
as ruminant animals. To what extent, though, still remains to be seen. Are you driving up your omega 6s by eating some pork? I don't know. Some claim you would, or some chicken. Um, but when it comes to cows, I mean, as we've talked about, 75% of the time they're on grass. It's just that last 25%, 3 months or so, they're on, grains or whatever.
And that's not all cows. I mean,
Right.
and more people are getting back to just, they're finding ways to affordably just finish the cow on grass to get it fattened up enough to make them profitable at market and not having to send them to the feed lot before they're slaughtered. So,
Speaking of slaughter, my laptop's about to die.
uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, we're coming up on an hour, so we just wrap it up then.
Yeah, if you feel like it. I do want to talk about, I don't know if I'd call it my invention, but there's a question though from Ben Parlos. Maybe off topic, but are there any pro meat documentaries out there that you know of to watch? Well, I'd say
Yes.
Fat and Fat 2,
I'd
free
say
on
the best one
YouTube.
of them all is In Search of the Perfect Human Diet.
Also
It's
good.
on YouTube, it's on Prime, it's on Netflix. It's not new, it's pre-carnivore, but they get into everything right down to the nitrogen or the stable isotopes. They actually go to the lab at the Max Planck Institute, and the guy is saying, "Yeah, we can clearly see exactly what this creature ate." you know, so that's my favorite. But there's a few, right?
Right. Like I said, fat too. Geez, the sacred cow, right? Was that? Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had time to look because I've posted a lot of that stuff in Meet Mosaic and Autistic Carnivores in particular because that group's been around longer. Done videos on some of those, encouraging people to watch them. So, but there are some good movies out there, and I think movies are a great way. Oh, well, The Magic Pill is a keto
Hmm.
movie that's very powerful. So, Magic Pill definitely worth watching. Again, I believe it's on YouTube, it's on Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime. It's probably a bunch of ways to watch that. So, very powerful film.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those ones are the first ones that come to my mind too. I forgot what else I was saying though. Oh, that's right. So, a lot of recipes call for oil. I've just been keeping duck fat around for whenever a recipe calls for oil. So today, I have like a hot pot and has an electric grill with it as well for like making your own Korean barbecue. And it says to oil the side so that meat doesn't stick or whatever. It makes sense. So I put that duck fat all
What is a
around the
hot
pan.
pot?
Hot pot is just, it's Chinese soup. So it's just a hot, like a soup, a, I don't know, boiling water in the center of a table, and you throw in meat and vegetables or whatever seasonings, and you make a soup for everyone around the table. It's called hot pot. In
Thanks, Christine.
Japanese, it's called shabu shabu in Japanese. I know. I wish Jules was here because she correct me again, but you could say it in Chinese, but it's Chinese soup, a kind of Chinese style of restaurant. Anyway, and but we had some shrimp, so I put some shrimp. So I fried shrimp on duck fat, and my fiance had some sweet potato, and it came out. I would need more duck fat and probably like a more proper grill or something. But it gave me the idea for duck fat tempura. Like if there'd be a way to roast or put vegetables and meats in a duck fat like oil so it crystallizes, you could have duck fat vegetable meaty tempura. Have you
All
had?
right.
Yeah.
Keep us up to date on your progress there. You did say vegetables, so I'm just a little concerned.
Right. Well, vegetables for those people. Well, I think there is something to cooking in, avoiding the whole seed oil thing. I think it does help
Gotcha.
because all that tempura is in, sesame oil or cottonseed oil or only God knows what.
Soybean oil,
Soybean oil, probably, most likely. By the drumful,
canola oil,
canola. What is the canola plant?
canola plant. It's in
Canola plant.
Canada. Damn Canadians. All right, well, we'll wrap her up before your computer dies since you're too lazy to plug your damn laptop in every time, much less put up a green screen. So, anyways, at least you made it and you're only 5 minutes later than the 15-minute start time.
I wasn't even late this time. I clocked in at 7:10.
If we don't start at 5, you're late. Do you not understand that? I'm just going to tell you it's 5 from now on. I only make it 5:15. Yes, blame Canada. It's a good point. And blame Justin for being late. Good night, Christina. Good night,
Good
Ben
night,
Parlos.
Christina.
Good night,
Good night.
Raymond Neff. We didn't see ADS or Vanessa or any of those folks, but maybe next
It's the
time.
holidays. They're busy, I'm sure.
Damn holidays.
Next Sunday is Xmas. So don't know what
Man.
we're doing about an episode, but we'll
I
try
don't
and get
know.
something out.
We'll work it out. We'll pre-record. I don't know if Joe ever responded, but I was talking about recording with him early, on like Saturday or something, our time, because he was going to be theoretically not have to work, but I don't know if he ever answered.
Right.
So we'll work that out. But until next time, hey, eat some meat, feel better.
Feel better.
Whatever you do.
Don't fall down the carb hole.
Don't fall down the carb hole.
Ho, 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 ho.
Isn't this
ho,
normally where I end broadcast?
ho. Hi, Vanessa. It's great to see you. You since you
Oh, she
chime
popped
in.
in. Good night.
Good night.
All right. See you in and out.